Alright, Gaichu. The cabin is in a far better state than it was previously. The heat has been adjusted down and the ventilation restored. The boxes of junk and parts have been stacked and neatly arranged, and Gaichu's small amount of personal gear is tucked away in a corner. There is a small mat in the center of the cabin that looks like it doubles as both a rug and a sleeping pad. Gaichu is seated in the lotus position, eyes closed. His fingertips rest on a braille reader that is plugged into his PDA. The device fills the room with a soft clicking from the pin combinations. As you approach, he lifts his hand from the reader's surface. Hello again, SCKC. Is there something I can assist you with? Looks like you've carved out a nice little spot here. If you say so. I doubt it would be suitable for others, but I do not require much by the way of space, and I have few possessions. So long as I have a quiet area in which I can sit and relax, I am happy. Now, what is it you wish to discuss? What were you reading? Gaichu draws himself up, folding his palms in his lap. With one toe he pushes the braille reader away. It's called Hagakure, Hidden Leaves. Written by Yamamoto Tsunetomo, as a treatise on what it means to be a samurai, and how one should best serve one's lord. Required reading for the Red Samurai, unsurprisingly. Etiquette academic, wasn't he forbidden from killing himself when his lord died? Gaichu blinks, obviously surprised. A wide grin spreads across his face. You know of him, then? Yes, that is Tsunetomo. He was eager to die and show his loyalty, but Lord Mitsuhige had always found that custom to be wasteful. Mitsuhige. The author has a central thesis. When there is a question of life or death, always choose death. Throw oneself into the fray with no resignations, and act on instinct alone. My current state of affairs speak the truth of this more robustly than any lesson in a dojo. I don't think that's actually a good idea. Like he said, it's wasteful. It is wasteful. What is the rest of the book about? Gaichu ticks off the points by unfurling successive fingers. It is partly a manual for proper behavior towards one's lord, partly a rumination on the mindset required to be victorious in combat, and partly a collection of stories. Tsunetomo believed that to truly embody the virtues of a samurai, adherents should be mindful of their path at all times. Never stop training, always question how one's actions reflect on their lord. Above all, be prepared to do your duty instinctively at any time, no matter what the cost. If I recall correctly, the author was a bureaucrat who never fought anyone. Gaichu's lips curl into a slight scowl, but he nods in agreement. That is true. Tsunetomo never fought anyone. And some have criticized him for trying to speak of being a warrior without ever lifting a sword. But I believe that he has many things of value to say. He cared a great deal about the deeper meanings of being a samurai. If lived experience is the only path to true truth, then all philosophers are fools. Don't philosophers experience the things they philosophize about? I mean, some don't, but some do. I don't... Like, okay. The way I see it, philosophers, if they're not speaking from experience, philosophers offer a hypothesis. But the hypothesis does need to be tested in the real world before we can put any weight on it, right? I mean, of course, formulating hypotheses is in itself a skill, right? And yes, you can make a profession from making hypotheses, right? That's what a philosopher is. Like you propose ideas. and then you leave it to other people to test the ideas. Right? The philosophy is not taken as truth until it has stood up to the test of reality. That's how I look at it. So, I mean, it may be true that the philosophers have not experienced the things that they hypothesize about, but we don't ask them to do that task. That's for someone else to do. Their task is simply to propose hypotheses. And we also don't, like, put too much stock into the hypotheses until they've been tested, is how I think about it. Anyway, once again, the game doesn't allow me to say what I'm thinking. He sounds a bit like an armchair general to me. Doesn't mean that armchair generals aren't right about things. Like a person who's never actually been in a war can be right about the war. I mean, maybe they can't actually lead an army, but they can be right about it. Right? You know what I mean? Like they can analyze the situation and be correct in their conclusions, even if they're not an actual warrior. I don't know. I respect him for trying to elevate the philosophy. As do I. No one is perfect, but we should all strive as diligently as he to elevate our way of being. Most walk through life blind, never understanding their own desires or the effects of their actions. If more of us meditated as deeply as Tsunetomo on our lot in life, I suspect there would be less misery in the world. Yeah, me too, Gaichu. I wish people weren't so stupid. What does he say about masterless samurai like you? 7 times down, 8 times up. Gaichu smiles thinly, wrapping a claw on the hilt of his sword. More specifically, if a samurai has not been a ronin at least 7 times, then he has not truly lived as a samurai. Those were different times, however. It was common for samurai to fall out of favor with their lord and be turned loose to wander. For company men like myself, the choice is serve or die. Well, maybe these companies are not worthy of samurais, Gaichu. Yeah. The companies have no honor, Gaichu. Is there anything else you would like to discuss? I want to know more about what it's like to be a ghoul. Gaichu cocks his head at you, his milky eyes narrowing mirthfully. Preparing for the eventuality of killing me and collecting the bounty? Make sure you leave my face intact. I would prefer to be a well-preserved trophy. No, I'm not gonna kill you. Maybe like one day I'll get you to bite me and then I can live forever. Don't worry, I'll have it stuffed and mounted on my wall. Gaichu bares his teeth in a rictus grin. You can hear a faint chuckle rumble in the back of his throat. Now that would be an illustrious end to my career. A severed head decorating a leaking wreck of a boat. Home to an extremely private individuals who would never show me off. Couldn't you sell it to a museum or something of that sort? Gaichu grows serious, leaning back. If you wish to know what it's like to be me, ask away. I see no reason to conceal the details of my condition. Oh, so you eat people. What's that like? Gaichu blinks a few times and cocks his head as if to stare at the ceiling. What is it like to eat anything else? Or for a diabetic to take insulin? It is like that, a fact of life. I have found that most people are revolted by the concept of eating the flesh of humans, rather than the act itself. I mean, is it delicious? Do you find it delicious? Taken in isolation of social concerns, humans are no more or less edible than most mammals. The flesh can be of poor or high quality depending on all the factors you would expect. diet, lifestyle, etc. I prefer to prepare my meals as I would sashimi, like garnish and flavoring, but with an emphasis on the taste of the base meat. Do I enjoy it? No, not especially. Some Japanese are fond of pork and chicken sashimi, but I've never been one of them. Gaichu shrugs helplessly. But it is a fact I must accept, and if it is how things will be, I'll make the best of it. Do you feel bad about having to eat people? No. Why? They're dead. No, but I was never a vegetarian, so why should I? Gaichu seems puzzled by the question, as if he's missing nuances of meaning. It does not matter where the meat comes from. Someone who died in a car accident is as viable as someone I kill. I admit I have eaten people that I have killed, but that was of necessity. I was going to kill them anyway. Why let their bodies go to waste? Most ghouls smell like rotting meat, why don't you? Diets and cleanliness. Most ghouls eat rotting flesh and do not bathe. I eat fresh meat and bathe regularly. Alright, fair enough. Are you immortal? Considering this, Gaichu leans over onto one elbow. I have no idea. I do not believe there have been any organized studies of ghoul longevity. Most strains of the human metahuman vampiric virus impart a semblance of extended life, but I do not believe that the Krieger strain is one. Somehow I think it's more likely that I will die in combat than of old age, no matter how long I live. It might be interesting to ask a doctor. To what end? I live by the sword and I will die by it. I have no illusions about my chances of growing old. Gaichu shakes his head in dismissal. How would I live out my days? In a rural country village, eating people who happen to expire on nearby roads? That would not be my fate. What's the deal with your teeth? What deal are you referring to? Did you file them down to those points? No, they are actually new teeth, created by the infection. I suppose it is a natural advantage to have teeth better suited for carnivorous pursuits. The virus gave you new teeth? Let's talk about something else. As you wish, what is on your mind? We were talking about your father bailing you out of jail. Ah, yes, I do recall you asking about that. Gaichu's reticence is palpable in the long silence that follows. He does not continue. Is something the matter? No, Gaichu purses his lips and sighs heavily. No, everything is fine. I will tell you what you wish to know. I simply have not spoken of my family in a long time. Are you close? Not any longer. I have not seen my father for many years now, nor my mother or sister. I wish I could say that I miss them, but I feel that I hardly know them after so many years apart. Yasujiro gave me an ultimatum after my run-in with Shiawase security. He told me that he had cut a backroom deal with a rival in Shiawase to keep me out of prison. The charges would be suspended if I finished high school and studied at Kyoto University, with the intent of joining Renraku. If I did not, Shiawase would take me into custody and I would spend time in prison. Alright. What did that cost him? I have no idea. He refused to reveal what he had been forced to do in exchange, but I cannot imagine it was cheap. Insider information, perhaps. A deliberately botched contract. Yasujiro was a manager in the Water and Power division, so the deal would have been lucrative, but not secret. I had always taken my family for granted, raised in a Renraku family, going to Renraku schools. I always had a sense of place, of belonging where I was. The thought of all that vanishing, I simply could not manage it. Suddenly, the reality of my actions became clear. Gaichu runs his fingers over his bald scalp, smiling distantly. From then on, I tried to be the son he wanted. And he seemed glad of it. We grew much closer over the next few years. He took time off to visit me when I was living in Kyoto. Why would that be unusual? He was a very busy man in those days, a lot of responsibility and very little time for himself. I was impressed that he could carve off as much time as he did just to go camping with his son. A lot of nice wilderness in that part of Japan, I bet. Very much so. The land around Kyoto is protected from development due to historical and cultural significance. Most of the mountains are considered sacred, so the Diet declared them a national preserve. We made several trips to the area between Kyoto and Nara, around the village of Ide. We camped in the mountains above it. We would hunt wild deer and boar there, using my family's antique aquabus. An aquabus is like a musket. Uh, wouldn't something more, no, they're not. Did you, I mean, that's not what I would ask is, did you even hit anything with that thing? Did you actually catch anything, or did you just scare the animals? Wouldn't something more modern be better? You're probably not allowed to use something better, because it's a protected wildlife reserve. Definitely, but the law still prohibits firearm ownership by private individuals. The Tanegashima has been in my family's possession since the 18th century, and it is exempt from the law due to special classification. Gaichu chuckled softly to himself. Perhaps ironically, hunting with my father is how I learned to prepare raw meat. Strange to think that such activities served as training for my current state of affairs. So what's the process? How do you prepare it? Soak the meat in brined water and simmer it at a low heat for several hours. Let it cool and repeat the process over several days. It cannot get too hot or I am unable to eat it. This process brings out the collagen in the meat. When it is done, I spice it with ginger and sansho pepper. Again, not too much. Mundane food is anathema to me. Interesting. So he can only eat human flesh. He can't eat any mundane food. Like, not even ginger and pepper, really. And he can't really eat it cooked either. He just actually has to eat it raw, but he simmers it to bring out the collagen. Sighing happily, Gaichu stares off into the distance. When he looks back, he smiles broadly at you. Those were good days. I am sorry I cannot go back to those times. When one joins the Red Samurai, one must give up all attachments of one's previous life. The company, the code, and the unit becomes the entirety of your world. Even your family ties have to be cut. Especially those. Anything that could distract you from a mission must be purged. Commitment to the unit and the company must be total. Applicants must be human, Japanese, and utterly devoted to Rinraku. Your unit becomes your family. Your commander is your father and mother, your teammates your siblings. Red Samurai are not allowed to reveal our identities and position to anyone outside the Special Operations Group. Even if we wanted friends outside the unit, we could not have them.